You're watching part of our series on building garage storage racks. The racks are perfect for beginners, cheap to build, and are an excellent storage solution. In this episode, we'll be building the 5 wide by 5 tall storage racks. The video is split into 2 parts. First, the Home Depot version tailored for their 27-gallon HDX black and yellow totes. Second, a modified design to fit the 27-gallon black and yellow totes from Costco, Lowe's, and Sam's Club. After nearly a year of full-time work, I am excited to introduce SnapSort AI. It's a system designed to help you manage the items in your totes. It's an organization app where AI does all the boring parts for you. Slap a sticker on your tote, scan it once. Now it's in the app, ready for your items. Snap a photo of your item. AI reviews the shot and writes out the description terms automatically. No typing necessary, making searching for your items later easy. Months later, search for boxing gloves. The app points you right to the tote. No more digging. You are in control of borrowing, moving, or deleting items. Invite your family to your workspace and organize together. Free to try on iOS and Android. Link below. Alright, for this part of the video, we're going to be building the 5 long by 5 tall storage rack. This rack is specifically designed for the 27-gallon HDX totes from Home Depot. The dimensions of the rack are going to be 110 and 9/16 inches long. The rack is 28 and a quarter inches deep, and it's 83 and 11/16 inches tall. So the first thing you need to do is just gather your supplies. You're going to need a combination of 29 2x4s that are 8 feet long and 4 2x4s that are 10 feet long. Don't use the 10-foot long boards up until the end. I'll mention when you have to use those. The first part that you need to do is cut 50 identical shelf supports. They need to be 28 and a quarter inches long. Now, if you notice, I did trim off the edges here at 45 degrees for 2 reasons. Easier sliding, the angle guides the totes into the rack, and the second reason is tote protection. It prevents the tote flaps from catching the sharp 90-degree angle otherwise. So it's really easy to trim these off. You would just go about halfway through that 2x4, so about 3/4 inches, and then cut it off at 45 degrees, and then trim off the other side as well. The next thing that you need to do is build these sort of ladder structures. So the white components here are the shelf supports from the previous step, and now we have a new 2x4. It's an 80 11/16 inch long 2x4 represented in the green here. You're going to need 2 of these. So you're going to attach the shelf supports to the green components here, and the spacing is going to be 11 inches from the edge here. The next one is 12.5 from the other, 12.5, 12.5, 12.5, and then the leftover should be 2 3/16 of an inch at the end there. You're going to attach the shelf supports to the green components using the 2.5-inch screws. You don't want to use longer screws because they'll poke through. I highly recommend that you pre-drill and countersink these screws to make sure the wood doesn't split, and also so nothing's sticking out. Use wood glue as well for additional strength. So you're going to need a total of 6 of these ladder structures. They're all going to be identical. Now, some of these are going to be modified. So the modification is you're just going to add one more layer of shelf supports. They're going to be aligned with the previous layer. So the spacing is the same, 11 inches here, 12.5 here, 12.5 here, 12.5, 12.5, and then the edge is 2 3/16 of an inch left over there. So again, you're going to attach these using 2.5-inch screws, pre-drill, countersink, use wood glue. So after you're done with that, you should have a total of 4 that are double-sided ladders and then 2 that are going to be single-sided. The way that we're going to put all of this together is we're going to introduce the blue component here. So these are going to be the 10-foot longer pieces that you need. So the length is 110 and 9/16 inches, both for this one and this one. You're going to take one of the one-sided ladders facing inward. You're going to attach it to the long 2x4. Use 3.5-inch screws, pre-drill, countersink these, use wood glue to make sure that it's nice and secure. You're going to repeat the same step, but this time on the other side. Make sure that the ladder is facing inwards so that everything's correct. And now you're going to be adding these double-sided ladders to the inside of the tote rack. The spacing is 20 and 5/16 of an inch. So that means from the edge of this 2x4 to the edge of that 2x4, it's 20 and 5/16 of an inch. You're going to use 3.5-inch screws, pre-drill, use wood glue, and countersink those. You're just going to continue to repeat the same step. So again, 20 and 5/16 inches between these two. Same thing for the next one. And same thing for the last one. So everything should align nicely in the end. So 20 and 5/16 inch here and here as well. All right, now you're going to add two more of these 110 and 9/16 inch pieces on the ends here. So this is the last two 10-foot pieces that you should have remaining. So secure these with 3.5-inch screws, pre-drill, countersink, just like you did with the other components as well. Now this is a larger rack. You definitely need to have these L-shaped brackets. These prevent the rack from swaying side to side. I'm going to link the ones that I purchased for my own build in my garage. I like the ones that I have because they pre-drilled the holes in the center of the bracket versus on the sides. So where were you going to add these? They're going to be added to the ends here. So both from the bottom and from the top. So go ahead and add these. I just used 3 screws like that. So again, it's better if the hole is pre-drilled more in the center because it'll hold better. But I know that they sell a lot of different kinds of brackets like this. All right, the next thing is to make sure that your rack is secured to the wall correctly. This is a larger rack, so you definitely want to make sure that it's safe. So you're going to use these L-shaped brackets to connect them to the studs of the garage. So you can use a stud finder so you know the exact placement, or there's many YouTube videos that you can find on how to find the studs. You would need to connect the brackets here with 1-inch screws and then to the actual studs with 3.5-inch screws. If I remove the drywall here, you'll see that the braces or brackets here that will align with the actual studs. And that's what you want. You don't want to connect it to the drywall. All right, so this part of the video is going to be for the 5 long by 5 tall tote rack. This one is specifically designed for the Costco, Lowe's, and Sam's Club bins. The overall dimensions of the rack are 114 inches long. The rack is 30.25 inches deep, and it's 80 7/8 of an inch tall. The first thing that you're going to need is to collect your material. You're going to need 29 2x4s that are 8 feet long, 4 2x4s that are 10 feet long. Don't use the longer 2x4s yet. We'll do that at the step at the end. So the first cut that you're going to be making here is 50 identical shelf supports. These are going to be cut at 30.25 inches. Now, if you notice, I cut the shelf supports at 45 degrees at the ends here for 2 reasons. 1, easier sliding. The angle guides the tote into the rack. And then 2 is tote protection. It prevents the tote flaps from catching on sharp 90-degree edges. So this is going to be an easy trim. You take your shelf supports and about halfway through, so 3.25 inches, you're going to trim off this blue piece at 45 degrees. And then you're going to do the same thing on the other side as well. The next thing you're going to do is make these ladder structures. So we have our shelf supports in the white here, and now we're introducing the green component. This is a new 2x4 that is 7 7/8 of an inch long. You're going to be adding these shelf supports at the following distances. The first one is going to be 10 7/16 inches away from the edge. The next one is 11 15/16 of an inch. Same here, same here, same here. And you should be left over with 2 3/16 of an inch on the end there. you will be adding 2.5-inch long screws to secure all of this together. So don't use longer screws so they don't poke through. Use wood glue for additional strength. I definitely recommend you pre-drill and countersink these so that the wood doesn't split. All right, you're going to need a total of 6 of these shelf supports. They're all going to be identical, or ladder structures rather. They're all going to be identical. And some of these are going to be slightly modified. So here's the modification. You're going to be adding a second layer of shelf supports on top of the first layer. So they will be at the same distances. So the first one is going to be at 10 and 7/16 of an inch, 11, 15/16. Same. And then you're going to be left over with 2 and 3/16 of an inch. So add 2.5-inch long screws to secure all of those things together. Use wood glue, pre-drill, countersink, just like before. So you should have a total of 4 double-sided ladders and then 2 that are going to be single-sided. All right, now we're going to be adding all of this together. So now we're going to introduce a new 2x4. It's 114 inches long. This is going to be the 10-foot long board that you're going to use. And you're going to need 2 of these, so they're identical. You're going to add the single-sided ladder structure. It needs to be facing inward, and you're going to connect it at the ends here using 3.5-inch screws. Definitely pre-drill this, countersink this, and use wood glue. You're going to repeat the same process, but this time on the other side. So go ahead and add those screws, secure that in place. And now essentially what we're going to do is just add every 21 inches the double-sided ladder to the inside of the structure. So it'll be 21 inches from the edge of this 2x4 to the edge of that 2x4, 21 inches. Use 3.5-inch long screws, wood glue, pre-drill, countersink that. And then go ahead and move on to the next one. Again, 21 inches. The next one's at 21 inches as well. And the last one is also at 21 inches. So in all, these are going to be all evenly spaced out. All right, now the last 2 2x4s that were 10 feet long are going to be used up here. So you're going to add 2 114-inch long 2x4s. So these are going to be the same exact size as the ones on the bottom here. Use 3.5-inch long screws, pre-drill, countersink, and add wood glue as well. Since this is a larger rack, I definitely recommend you purchase these L-shaped brackets. These are going to prevent the rack from swaying side to side. I'll link the ones that I purchased for my rack that I built in the garage. So where are these going to be going? They're going to be added to the corners here. So both at the top and the bottom as well. Now the reason why I like the ones that I purchased is because they have holes that are pre-drilled more like in the center of the bracket versus on the sides. And that way it holds better together. And I just used 3 screws here. All right, now that you have the rack built out, you have to safely add it to the garage wall. So this is a larger rack. It can topple, especially under the weight of a lot of items or if somebody climbs it. So it's pretty dangerous. You definitely need to brace it to the wall. So you can use these kind of standard ties that you can purchase either at Home Depot or Lowe's or online. I'm going to remove the drywall here so you can see the brackets. They do have to align with the actual 2x4s of the garage, the studs. So you can use a stud finder. There's many different techniques of finding the actual studs, but use 1-inch long screws to secure it to the rack and then 3.5-inch or 4-inch long screws to secure it to the actual studs. Use however many you need to make it safe and secure. Hey, thanks for watching. If you wanted a printable PDF build guide, I will have it linked below. You can print it or download it to your phone and use it offline in the garage. It will have everything you need to be successful in building a rack. See you next time.